The Supreme Court's recent decision regarding the deportation of Venezuelan migrants has sent shockwaves through the nation. In a deeply divided ruling, the court upheld the Trump administration's right to deport these individuals under the auspices of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. This law, enacted during a time of heightened tensions with France, grants the executive branch broad authority to detain and deport non-citizens deemed a threat to national security. The court's decision to invoke this rarely used act has sparked intense debate. Critics argue that the act was never intended to be used against asylum seekers fleeing political persecution and economic hardship. They contend that the Trump administration is exploiting a historical relic to justify its hardline immigration policies. Supporters of the decision, however, maintain that the president has a duty to protect national security and that the influx of Venezuelan migrants constitutes a legitimate threat. The historical context of the Alien Enemies Act cannot be ignored. Passed amidst fears of war with France, the act was part of a series of laws known as the Alien and Sedition Acts. These laws were widely criticized as an assault on civil liberties, and the Alien Enemies Act itself was only used sparingly in the centuries that followed. Its use in the context of Venezuelan deportations raises serious concerns about the erosion of due process and the potential for abuse. This ruling has set a dangerous precedent. By upholding the use of the Alien Enemies Act in this case, the Supreme Court has opened the door for its broader application in the future. The potential consequences for immigrants' rights and civil liberties are profound. While the Supreme Court upheld the Trump administration's right to deport Venezuelan migrants, the ruling did include a caveat. Each individual facing deportation must be granted a hearing in Texas. This requirement, while seemingly a victory for due process, raises a host of logistical and practical concerns. The sheer number of Venezuelan migrants seeking asylum in the United States presents a significant challenge. The Texas court system is already overburdened, and the influx of deportation hearings will only exacerbate the backlog. This could lead to lengthy detentions for migrants as they await their day in court, further straining resources and prolonging their uncertainty. Furthermore, the requirement that hearings be held in Texas places a significant burden on migrants. Many are fleeing dire circumstances and lack the financial resources to travel to and from Texas, let alone secure legal representation. This geographic hurdle could effectively deny many migrants a fair opportunity to present their case and could result in deportations back to the very dangers they sought to escape. The court's stipulation of hearings in Texas, while intended to provide a semblance of due process, risks becoming a hollow gesture. The logistical hurdles and financial burdens placed on migrants may ultimately undermine the fairness and efficacy of the process. The Supreme Court's decision on Venezuelan deportations is but the latest development in the Trump administration's ongoing efforts to reshape immigration policy. From the outset of his presidency, Trump has made immigration a cornerstone of his agenda, pursuing a series of policies aimed at reducing both legal and illegal immigration. The administration's efforts have been characterized by a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, Trump has sought to curtail legal immigration through measures such as reducing the number of refugees admitted to the United States, imposing stricter requirements for family-based visas, and limiting access to asylum. On the other hand, he has taken a hardline stance against illegal immigration, increasing border security, expanding the use of detention, and pursuing aggressive deportation policies. These policies have drawn widespread criticism from human rights groups, immigration advocates, and legal scholars. They argue that the administration's actions are cruel, inhumane, and contrary to America's values as a nation of immigrants. They point to the separation of families at the border, the indefinite detention of asylum seekers, and the targeting of vulnerable populations as evidence of the administration's callous disregard for human rights. The Trump administration's immigration agenda represents a significant departure from past practices. Its emphasis on restriction and enforcement has had a profound impact on immigrant communities and has sparked a national debate about the role of immigration in American society. The Trump administration's immigration policies have not only sparked controversy at home, but have also had significant repercussions on the international stage. The administration's decision to withdraw from the Global Compact on Migration, its efforts to pressure other countries to adopt stricter immigration policies, and its rhetoric on immigration have all strained relations with key allies and partners. The administration's decision to end USAID funding for humanitarian and food aid programs in numerous countries, including Afghanistan, Syria, and Yemen, has further exacerbated global concerns. This move, driven in part by billionaire presidential advisor Elon Musk's criticisms of USAID, has raised fears of a humanitarian crisis in some of the world's most vulnerable regions. China and Iran, two countries frequently at odds with the United States, have been particularly vocal in their criticism of the Trump administration's immigration policies. They have accused the United States of hypocrisy, pointing to its own history as a nation built by immigrants, and have called for greater international cooperation on migration issues. The global fallout from the Trump administration's immigration policies is multifaceted. It has strained relations with allies, undermined international cooperation on migration, and raised concerns about the United States' commitment to humanitarian assistance. The long-term consequences of these policies remain to be seen, but they have undoubtedly had a significant impact on the global stage.